Hello, and welcome back to the Ground and Root podcast, where we are exploring the world of holistic strategies to enhance healing and help you stay cancer free. I am your host and holistic cancer dietitian, Dion Detraz. In today's episode, episode number 3, we are going to finish our intro series around what we do at Ground and Root, what our beliefs are, and why we would love to have you follow along on this podcast. In today's episode, we're going to dive more specifically into the convictions and beliefs at Ground and Root, how we see cancer healing a bit differently from the mainstream, plus the 4 wellness pillars that are essential to a cancer-free life. Let's get started. So first, we're going to explore our convictions and beliefs, the things, ideas, the approaches that we have that separate us from many traditional cancer dietitians, as well as honestly, many of the influencers you may come across on social media. We take a truly integrated and holistic approach. We believe that blending the best of all healing philosophies is honestly your best strategy at healing and staying well, having a long and healthy life. We don't discriminate with certain philosophies. We're not all or nothing. We're not black and white. We really take a blend, pulling from everything we know, everything science brings us, and time-tested strategies to really decide what is going to be the best approach for you. We also understand that everybody's healing journey is going to look a little different. There's not just one plan, one approach that's going to work for everybody. So let's get more specific. We have what I've narrowed down to 6 true convictions. Number 1, healing is always possible. We believe this with everything we have. This is like the number 1 thing that we believe is that regardless of the stage of your disease or the prognosis or what has or hasn't worked in the past, there is always hope. And if we hang on to that hope as we move through this journey, as we test and experiment and try various strategies, that alone will help improve your odds at recovery and long-term cancer prevention. There are always miracle stories. There are so many radical remission cases out there. We know that anything is possible. What is going to help make it more likely is if we bring in a true blend of tools to help and also, of course, help you understand the why. So that's number 1. Number 2, treating is not the same as healing. This is an important one. You need a strategy for both, 100%. We can't do one without the other. If there is cancer burden in the body, which is different than just cancer cells, I will talk about this more on a future episode because we all grow cancer cells. That is not an unusual thing to happen. But when the cancer cells proliferate, when they grow, when they spread, when there's now a burden of cancer in the body, we need treatment to help reduce that burden. That could be traditional Western treatment, chemotherapy, surgery, radiation, immunotherapy, etc. Or it could be alternative treatment strategies, but we do need a treatment plan. Treatment is going to reduce the burden. It is not going to change why the cancer grew in the first place. That is where healing comes into play. Healing is when we go deeper to understand why it grew and to change the environment to make it as least hospitable as possible for it to grow again. That is healing, right? So we need a strategy for both, but they are not the same thing. Number 3, cancer is not caused from bad luck. And I know I already spoke to this a little bit on my earlier episodes. And although genetics do play a role, it's not in the way you may think, and it isn't set in stone. We talked about this a little bit in the last episode around epigenetics. So there is a role our DNA plays, but it's not just because we're born with a certain mutation that we are destined to get cancer. Thankfully, our genes are very much influenced by our environment, our diet, our emotions and thoughts, our stress. So we have a lot more say in how our genetics play out than you may think, right? Our genes are not our destiny. We can control that. But so if cancer is not, completely just because of random luck or our genetics, What is it caused from? Now, I talked about this a lot in the last episode, and of course, we're going to talk about this more. But hopefully, at this point, even just having listened to the first two episodes, you also know and believe that, yeah, it's not bad luck. There are always reasons why cancer grows. And when we understand the reasons, we can take a more targeted approach in healing and recovery. Now, conviction number 4, you do not have to suffer through treatment. In fact, we can typically make treatment pretty well tolerated. Just like in my dad's story, just like in many, many, many of the clients that I've worked with, you can still live your life, have good energy, feel relatively well and healthy, even while you're moving through treatment. We can also help you recover much quicker once treatment is over. So you can get back to a healthy baseline, probably honestly healthier than before your diagnosis. So treatment does not have to be a doom and gloom period. It's hard. I don't want to negate that. It is a challenge for sure, but we can help make it much more tolerable, bringing in integrative, holistic strategies. And you're going to learn how to do all this through this podcast. Conviction number 5. There is a lot more you can do to prevent recurrence than simply watch, wait, and pray, which is sort of the standard method. You know, I worked in the Western world. I worked in the hospital. I saw what happened once people were done with treatment. They were happy. There was congratulations, of course, but then they were basically just left to go back to whatever they were doing before, you know, healthy diet, exercise, like some really vague recommendations. And then we'll see you in a few months for your next scan or for your blood work. And that was it. Not a lot of guidance, right? Monitoring alone is not the answer. It's important, of course. We want to make sure that if anything was to start to come back, we catch it as early as possible. So monitoring matters, but we can take a really proactive approach to your prevention, right? And we do this by getting really clear on what your unique risks and root causes are. Then we can put together a plan that's made specifically for you, right? And to help dramatically reduce the risk of cancer coming back. Finally, conviction number 6, we must heal both the physical and the energetic bodies in order for true and complete healing to happen. This was probably the last conviction that I have brought on into my practice, only maybe in the last couple years after having worked with many, many people. It's been over a decade now. And seeing that for some people, not everybody, but for some people, despite bringing in all the things with diet and supplements and integrative strategies, we would still hit a wall in their healing. And it took me a long time, honestly, true transparency here, to understand that the wall we were hitting was in their energy. It was in their energetic field. And it wasn't until we brought in energetic healing practices that we could shift that wall, that we could get beyond that wall. This is because dis-ease, right? If we think about that as two words, dis-ease often begins in our energy, in our energetic field before it moves into the physical body. So if we don't include this piece in your healing plan, then there's a very good chance that even though your body heals, that you will return to a state of dis-ease if your energy is not also healed. If this isn't in concept for you, no worries. We are going to talk a lot more about what this means and, more importantly, the tools and the strategies that can help you enhance your energetic flow. We will also be bringing on our energy healing coach to teach you more about this. But it's important to at least lay the groundwork that this is one of our convictions and certainly one of the ways we approach healing, perhaps differently than other people you also follow. Now, how do we take action on these convictions? This is where our 4 wellness pillars come into play. Each of these pillars are an important strategy in your healing, and they really lay the groundwork for everything we teach and coach and do inside of Ground and Root, and certainly what our topics are going to be based on in this podcast. So our first wellness pillar is actually rooted in earth-centered living. It's what I consider our foundation. We use the medicines of the earth to help us nourish ourselves in a deep way and to help us build nervous system regulation as well as resilience in our body. So, this includes everything from being in the sunshine, being in nature, grounding, connecting to the earth's energy field. It includes a whole foods diet, right? The food that is coming from the earth as close as possible to how it's found in nature. It includes our movement on the earth. It includes following the sun. So being very aware of seasonal shifts and how that plays into our circadian rhythm when we sleep, when we wake up, etc. It also includes the plants and the natural remedies that are available to us from the earth, right? So this is really the foundation and where we always start. So we're going to spend a lot of time, of course, because that's a huge topic. There are so many things we can talk about there and teach you. And honestly, for many people, just focusing on the foundation can be enough for their bodies to heal. It could be all that they need to bring balance back into their system and harmony. Now, along with this earth-centered living is the idea of helping to regulate our nervous system, to improve or enhance emotional wellness, and ultimately to influence our energy, right? So, pillar number 2 is about enhancing energetic flow. So, everything I just talked about with our 6th conviction about how we need to heal both the physical and energetic bodies, we do this by enhancing energetic flow. And there are a lot of ways we can influence our energy. Our energy is connected to our nervous system, it's connected to our emotions, our thoughts, our feelings. So there are a lot of tools, there's a lot of strategies that can hit us in our energetic field. Like I mentioned, you're going to learn a lot more about this. And certainly when I bring our coach, Vicky, on, she's also going to share some really practical, easy places to start in shifting your energy. So that's pillar number 2. Pillar number 3 is finding your why, right? I've talked about this already so much, and we're going to continue. We're going to continue to talk about all the reasons why cancer might grow in the body. But this concept of root cause medicine, getting to why it grew in the first place so that we can change that reality. We can change the environment to make it as least hospitable as possible going forward, that it would continue to grow. And then finally, pillar number 4 is actually around community support. Humans thrive in community. A cancer journey can feel very lonely. I hear this over and over again from the people I work with, and certainly when I was working in the hospital as well. Who you surround yourself with, so your family, your friends, your perhaps a cancer-specific support group, this is going to matter in your healing journey. And because we are energetic beings, we are also going to pick up on the energies around us, right? So if we're trying to enhance our own personal energetic flow, if we're trying to vibrate at a frequency that's going to help us heal, we need to also be incredibly intentional around who we're surrounding ourselves with, because their energy is going to influence as well. And unfortunately, even in support groups, the energy is not always conducive towards healing. We want to surround ourselves with people who are going to lift us up, who are going to encourage and inspire and motivate and keep us hopeful and keep us looking at the long game, right? So, in review, 4 pillars: earth-centered living for deep nourishment, building resilience, enhancing energetic flow, finding your why, and then surrounding yourself in support that's going to lift you up, right? Positive, hopeful, helpful support. Now, the last thing I want to cover here is how we help implement these pillars. And again, laying the groundwork of what you're going to be learning as we continue on this podcast journey together. So I really break it down into 3 parts, and you will learn how to do this for yourself as well. So the first part is starting at the foundation, helping you rebalance and strengthen your foundation with the earth-centered living and enhancing energetic flow, right? So like I mentioned already, we do this bringing in the medicines of the earth. So it could be with sunshine, time in nature, grounding, circadian rhythm support. Actually, you're going to learn a lot more about circadian rhythm support when our coach, Kaslin, comes on. She's going to talk more about that. It can include nervous system regulation, tools to enhance your emotional wellness and how your emotions influence your energy, right? Influence the vibration and frequency in your body. Of course, it's going to include a nourishing anti-cancer, anti-inflammatory diet, right? A whole foods diet. It will include daily movement and strategies to help you get deep and restorative sleep, and even practices to help build resilience in your body, like fasting, like strength training, like hot exposure, cold exposure, light therapy, so much more. And all of these we are going to cover in this podcast so that you'll feel really clear about what are your tools in your toolbox, which ones resonate with you the most, and which ones are missing that you might need to add. So that's the first step. Step two is beginning to help you uncover the why. So we start first with the physical root causes, right? What are your unique risks and root causes in the physical realm? We use functional labs and testing to help you see what's happening behind the scenes in your personal physiology. I will be talking more about all of these tests. So you'll learn what they are, what they can look for, how they can be helpful, how to access them, etc. We also look at your unique DNA, right? This is the epigenetic piece. How are your systems of cancer prevention wired to work? Are there some weaknesses there that that could have been part of the cause of cancer growing? Can we enhance those pathways, right? So rather than throwing everything at your healing, because honestly, there's hundreds of strategies, which is wonderful, which means there's actually a really big toolbox to help you heal. That can also feel overwhelming to know which ones to do. Do I have to do all of them for my body to heal? But when we use functional labs, when we use testing, when we look at your DNA, now instead of throwing spaghetti at the wall, right, we can make much more targeted and precise strategies for what your body needs. So then you can feel really confident that the tools you're bringing in are actually what your body needs, as opposed to, everybody else. Then we help you dive deeper into the energetic root causes. So enhancing energetic flow is a big piece to the puzzle, but believe it or not, sometimes there's energy, trauma, stressors stuck in our energy, creating blockages that are actually part of the reason why the cancer grew in the first place. So we use various energetic and emotional assessments to help you determine, are there some energetic root causes that are playing a role? And then what do we do about that, right? How do we shift that energy? We will definitely dive into this a lot more inside this podcast, because as I've been just personally diving into this topic, I have found incredible research around emotions and energy and cancer. So this is it's a very interesting one if it's not something you've already explored. Now, one last piece as far as energetic root causes that I think is important, and we're going to talk about this as well in the podcast, is teaching you strategies to help you strengthen your intuitive knowing so that you can learn to trust your intuition as a member of your healthcare team, right? Because again, when there's hundreds of things you could be doing, we can use testing to help us get clearer, but you can also use your intuition to know what is going to be best for you uniquely, right? Where is your intuition guiding you? And we will talk about how to do that. If you don't feel like you have a strong connection to your intuition, what can you do to help grow that? And then finally, of course, just being here in this community, we are providing a place of support for you. We want to remove the isolation or the loneliness that you're feeling on your healing journey. We want to give you the emotional support, right? This is a very important piece to the plan. And there are, of course, other ways for you to receive community support as well, even inside of the tribe, which is our sort of our foundational community. I will link to that below in the show notes if you want to explore it. But there are a lot of ways that you can surround yourself with people who are going to lift you up. Like I mentioned earlier, I've been doing this work now for over a decade, right? And as I've moved through this journey with my clients, I have tested various methods, right? What I learned as a dietitian is that's like not only what I'm doing now. I've definitely expanded the tools that we use as I've learned what works, what doesn't work. And I now know that it requires all of those pieces, right? All of those 4 pillars to help you achieve full and complete healing. A truly comprehensive and holistic plan. That is what's going to give you the best possible outcome. And this podcast is going to teach you more about how to implement each of them, right? The last thing I want to leave you with is what I consider the evolution of the healing formula. Like, what is the formula to help you recover, heal, stay cancer free? Now, the old model, which is the model that I, started in inside the hospital, is really like you wait to be diagnosed, you have this cancer diagnosis, you receive your treatment protocol, and then we hope for the best. Right? And unfortunately, that old model, I feel like it's an outdated model, is still the standard of care in some places. And that might be your reality as well. However, you're here, you know that's not enough. You're trying on your own to learn as much as you can, right? Or for you or for your loved one. So, a better model, the model that I brought when I worked in the hospital, is yes, we have a treatment plan, but what is also the integrative plan? What are the integrative strategies we can also bring in, like food and sleep support and exercise and vitamins or supplements or massage or acupuncture, right? What are the other tools we can bring in to help you move through the treatment journey with the best possible outcome? This is exactly what I did for my dad's journey too, right? At the first time he went through cancer, and it works. I see over and over again how that model helps get people through treatment, feeling relatively good, better than they thought, and with a positive outcome. But as I learned in my dad's journey and since, that is still not enough. It's not enough to help us keep cancer away, right? So the evolved model, the model we use at Ground and Root, the model you will be learning all about here on this podcast, the model I like to call our magic healing formula, is actually a blend of everything I just shared with you. And if you think about it as a math formula, I like to think of it as E. So E stands for energy, emotions, right? Like your energetic frequency, times A, which means your energy is going to multiply the actions that you take. The actions alone may not be enough if we don't also combine it with the energy, right? And what are the actions? Targeted actions. I actually like A cubed, 3 actions: deep nourishment, rebalancing root causes, right? So we have to understand why and then work to shift those whys. And then using targeted remedies, targeted treatment strategies to reduce the cancer burden. That combination can result in healing and can help you stay cancer free, can reduce the odds of cancer coming back. I hope that this is resonating and you're like shaking your head yes as you're listening to this, like, yep, that makes sense. Yep, that sounds great. Assuming it is, please, 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 if you haven't already, subscribe so you'll be the first to know. We're going to release our episodes every week as we move forward. You're going to learn so much more about how to implement all of these pieces, hopefully in as easy a way as possible. That is always my goal in teaching, is to make it as easy as possible for you to do. And then share with the people you love, with other people that you know would be interested and would benefit from this information. Now, in the next 3 episodes, you're going to get to meet and hear from the other coaches at Ground and Root. I already alluded to that a little bit. You're going to learn more about how they support our community as well as what they teach. So their specialties. You're going to learn more about energy from our coach, Vicki. You're going to learn more about nourishment and prevention from our coach, Caslin. You're going to learn more about community and the role that plays in healing from our coach, Christine, and ultimately how each of these pieces will impact your healing. We're going to kick things off the next episode with our integrative dietitian, Caslin Hancock. She supports our one-on-one clients, but also inside of our group program. And like I said, her monthly calls are focused around nourishment, resilience, and cancer prevention strategies. So you're going to learn more about what all of that means. Plus, we're going to dive deeper into the role your circadian rhythm plays in health and healing. So that's going to be in episode 4. In episode 5, we're going to bring Coach Vicki Landis on, who's going to talk more about energy healing and give you some really specific tools to get started with that. And then in episode 6, you're going to get to meet Christine, not only learn more about the role community plays in a healing plan, but also hear from her own personal story with cancer and the different holistic strategies she used to help herself heal and move beyond her cancer journey. I can't wait to continue this conversation with you. I look forward to seeing you in the next episode. Take care.